It was another deadly day for NATO troops in southern Afghanistan. 2 Americans died in a roadside bombing, and a British soldier was shot and killed while on patrol. 24 NATO soldiers have been killed in the country in the last week alone. For more on recent military and political developments, we get a report from Jean McKenzie of Global Post, the international news website. Ray Suarez talked with her from Kabul earlier today.
Jean McKenzie, welcome. This most recent action represented the largest NATO one-day loss of life since last year. Are Taliban fighters more active than they've been in previous months?
I think that would be a pretty accurate assessment. The Taliban have declared an offensive called Al-Fatah, or the Victory, and have warned that they are going to step up their attacks. I think that that's what we're seeing. There were 5 NATO soldiers killed the day before, and at least 3 were killed today. So we've seen 20 soldiers lose their lives over the past 3 days. Of course, there are more soldiers in Afghanistan now than there were because of the U.S. troop surge, and this is also contributing to the rise in casualties. We have more boots on the ground in more dangerous places. And that, combined with the Taliban's new aggressiveness, is making life very difficult.
There was also violence around the Peace Jirga, the conference of 1,500 tribal and political leaders that met to discuss President Karzai's efforts to reach out to the Taliban. Did some of the increase in combat and bombings have to do with that Jirga, the gathering brought together by President Karzai?
Well, I think the Taliban delivered a very clear message to the Peace Jirga, which is that they were not prepared to talk at this point, that until they saw a real opening with the Afghan government and with the international community, they would answer any overtures, or what they called phony overtures, with violence, and that is what we saw on the first day of the Jirga.
At the conclusion of the Peace Jirga, what did they finally come up with? What were their recommendations for going forward?
Well, the conference came up with a set of suggestions that were then coordinated into a final declaration. The final declaration included outreach to the Taliban, a beginning of negotiations, reintegration of low-level Taliban fighters, release of Taliban prisoners from detention centers in Afghanistan, both foreign and Afghan detention centers, and also more control over the foreign forces, an end to night raids, house searches, and bombing of civilian areas.
Also in the past few days, we've seen the resignation of Amrullah Saleh, the head of Afghan intelligence, and Hanif Atmar, the interior minister. Were these significant cabinet posts, significant losses to the Karzai team?
They were very significant cabinet posts. This is 2 of the 3 security ministers, and they were very strong and very powerful ministers. I think people in Kabul are talking about little else these days except what the reasons are for the removal of Atmar and